Bonjour, good morning, everyone. We're about to introduce this second International Autonomy Symposium. As you can hear, we are about to speak in English, so if you need a headset, you have time to pick one at the entrance of this room. So let's, first of all, we will introduce ourselves. So I give the floor first to Cedric. We are three people that we are leading this morning symposium. Alessio Bolognesi from Federunacoma, but he is not still here, so we will start together only with Cedric. So I am Guillaume Boquet from Axema, as Laurent said. I am Regulatory Affairs Director, and I am also involving in the standardization activities at Europe level. I am chairman of the CEN-TC 144, which is the European Technical Committee dealing with tractors and machinery. And I am also involved in our European Association for advising and supporting our manufacturers. Cedric, please.
Hello, everybody. Very glad to be here for the second time. So I'm Cédric Seguinot. I am in the Robagri Association, and I'm the director of the Grand Défi de la Robotique Agricole, which is a French program dealing with the deployment of robotics in order to help farmers to go fast on transition about environment, about societal, about all of the topic concerning more sustainable practices in the field. We are quite convinced that the robotics can help farmers go faster, and that's why the France has put a program in place to help and go fast on this subject. In the frame of the Grand Défi de la Robotique Agricole, we have three outcomes. The first one is dedicated to help sectors to evaluate alternative to the use of pesticide in the field and to try to make some proof of concept using robotics. So basically, we are helping them to evaluate, test, imagine, design new robotics feature for the future. The second outcome of the Grand Défi de la Robotique Agricole is dedicated to helping manufacturers to go faster on the market. And to do that, one of the most important thing in the frame of the Grand Défi is to provide to manufacturers and suppliers a good understanding of what is at stake when we talk about autonomy. And obviously, safety and regulation affairs are one of the concerns of most of the manufacturers. That's why we have a common work together with Axema about this subject in the frame of the Grand Défi de la Robotique Agricole. And the third outcome of the program is dedicated more to dissemination, to helping farmers to understand what is at stake, where they are going to adopt robots, to work on training, to work on integration, technological integration in the farm, interfaces, software, physical interfaces with the world of the farm, and also to provide some references about performance to help farmers to be able to understand what will be the performances of a robot in their own cultural system, in their own farm, to be able to make a choice. And if we can do that right now, that's because for several years now with the FIRA, you can see it, there is a deployment of robots and the technologies now are more mature and we have several products on the market. So we are able to make some choice. And to do that, we need to have a proper criteria, a proper view of what need to be done on the farm and what will be the expected output of purchasing robots. One of the key issues is indeed autonomy and how to deal with autonomous robots. Sometimes you need still to have an operator on the field near the robot. Sometimes you can remove the operator from the field, but you still need to have a guy looking at its smartphone at any time. And sometimes you can have something which is fully autonomous. So a lot of question about that. And for sure, this international symposium for us is quite important to try to explain what is at stake, what are the definitions, and where we are going when we talk with regulation. Yes. Sure.
Okay. Just few words concerning the program of this morning. So we will have two main sessions. After this keynotes, Cedric and I, we will have a first session dedicated to a sort of overview, a state of global initiative regarding machine autonomy with two speakers, Christophe Tissier from CIMA and Stuart McClement from AEA. And after that, we will have a second session, so with our colleague Alessio, which is more a panel session with different speakers for the topic, which will be the sort of discussion around mobility autonomy versus autonomous farming operations. So, and between those two sessions, we will have a short break to have a coffee. So here's the program of this morning, and so let's start officially this symposium. And sorry, I forgot a very important thing, which is at the end of this, after those two sessions, we have I would say a convivial activity, a quiz from Simon Sayek from the Grand Défi, and so you will have the opportunity to play and to see if you have a good level in regulation, and particularly on the European regulation regarding autonomous machinery. So, sorry, Simon, for having forgotten your session. So let's start this morning, this symposium. Cedric, if you want to first introduce this session.
So as I just said, autonomy is a quite large concept, and behind that word, several realities are there. At first, sometimes when we talk about autonomy, we consider the time for the machine to stay on the field. So basically, we are going to talk about the autonomy of the battery, because with a small battery, basically you are going to operate for a few hours, and after that, with larger battery, we can operate during maybe all of the day, and maybe several days in a row. So all of that to say that the first definition of autonomy in most of people's mind concern the time, the duration of the mission on the field. We are not going to talk about that this morning. We are going to talk about the ability of the machine to handle operation by itself without the use of, without interaction with human. And it is a very large topic. It is more associated to safety concerns, to say, okay, are we able to delegate to the machine the operation, and on which level we can delegate the operation to the machine? That's the question of the autonomy from a regulation point of view. The second point is that also we also need to make a split between two considerations, especially with artificial intelligence and with the new software ability. Most of the time, we are going to talk about the autonomy of the operation. Indeed, in this case, we are able to handle more and more complex situations, to take care of each plant individually, and we can observe, analyze the plant, deliver the proper effect on each plant depending on what we are seeing, and the machine is going to decide by itself with a certain level of autonomy how to act, how to react to what is observed on the field, on the livestock, and so on. So that's the first aspect of autonomy. When we are talking with artificial intelligence especially, we have a very large explosion of the uses, potential uses of robotics. And that's the first meaning. The second meaning is, okay, how we are going to act with a mobile machinery which is able to move by itself on the field, on the greenhouse, on the farm. So how we are going to operate with a machine which is able to decide by itself where to move, where to act, and maybe to have several hundred of kilograms or tons moving alone on the field by itself, taking decision, going somewhere to do something, going elsewhere to do other thing. That's also the autonomy. And in both cases, we have different aspects. At any time, we need to encompass the fact that when the machine is going to move by itself, there are safety concerns. But before talking about that, I want to explain a little bit what we can do with the operation and with artificial intelligence, especially because since a few months, since a few weeks, and next week we are going to have an international summit about artificial intelligence in France, we can say that there is a large development of potential application of artificial intelligence, especially for agriculture. Let me give a few examples to have in mind the large variety of uses. When we talk about plants and vegetables, we can have disease recognition at the very big first stage of the disease appearance. To say that even a human looking at the plant is not able to detect at first this disease. With artificial intelligence, we are able to take care of the disease and to apply the proper medicine at the very early stage and to limit the amount of pesticide which are put on the machine. So plant recognition, that's one of the historic use of artificial intelligence. Another one, which is quite recent, is to make some behavioral monitoring of livestock, to be able to detect movement of any animal on the sheptail and being able to detect abnormal situation where we can analyze the stress and the animal welfare of the machine. And in that case, we are able to apply the proper treatment to the very animal which has been identified with an abnormal behavior. That's an example which is quite promising, especially by using very simple camera in for monitoring livestock. Another example, epidemiological and also prophylaxis practices. Indeed, for example, we can have in mind, we have in the association well-known agronomist, Xavier Rebout, which have very good example about the fruit and apple. If you are able to detect at any time rotten apple in an orchard, and you can remove them from the field, you are going to avoid the appearance of new disease. So you are able to act on the fruit before the disease occurs. So that's one application, easy to implement application of artificial intelligence and autonomy. In that case, you need to have, for all of these examples, you need to have a machine which is able to scan, to monitor, and to act at any time. So the key word behind that is availability of the technologies, of the equipment on the field. Another example, very recently, I've heard about a robot, a dog robot, used as a shepherd for small for chicken. So that's another example where you can use autonomous robots just to save time, to avoid to take care of all of your chicken and to move them in the night. Yeah. So all of these examples to say that autonomy is one of the key to provide new way to change practices in agriculture. But behind that, we are talking about availability of the machine. We are talking about intelligence, artificial intelligence, and so on. So that's a whole thing behind autonomy. But all of that is made possible because during the last years, we have been able to develop mobile machinery. When we talk about robotics, especially when you are at the FIRA, you are looking at mobile machinery, autonomous mobile machinery, being able to move on the field, going somewhere and elsewhere by itself. And all of that work, which has been quite long for several years, because there is a lot of technical issues behind that, deal with safety and concern. Because as soon as you are going to have a movement on the field, you are going to provoke dangerous situation. And when you do not have a driver on board anymore, these down the road situation are new situation, because you are going to have people which is not able to react at the time with new behavior and something which sometimes which is unpredictable. So that's the other aspect of the autonomy.
Thank you, Cedric. Yes, you mentioned key points. Deploying autonomy in the field requires an approach which is, first of all, ensuring safety. Safety is a key point, and I will say mainly for manufacturers, but also for the other stakeholders involved in the robotics, we need a global approach and also a lean approach. Regarding safety first, indeed, we all agree that it is a key point and a very important thing. The safety of operators is a prerequisite. In fact, I would say it's an obligation for all the people involved in robotics and in autonomous machinery in agriculture. We must all collectively ensure a high level of safety for mobile autonomous machinery. And it's not only a point of credibility or reliability, it's also a very key point to ensure and to deploying, to guarantee that it's a long-term question. I mean, we need to create trust and to ensure safety to help autonomous mobile machinery to be deployed in the field. Manufacturers, dealers, users, we all collectively need to do our best to guarantee maximum level of safety. We are all convinced that robotics can make a significant contribution to the problem we are facing in agriculture. Cedric mentioned some examples. We are all convinced that autonomous machinery can fix a problem we are facing, problem of labor, hard works, climate change adaptation, and so on. So we are convinced of that. But we have to ensure high level of safety, because the negligence of some people can lead to accident, and in this case, it will jeopardize the growth of the robotics autonomy in the field. So how do we ensure safety in the field? What do we need to guarantee this high level of safety? As an example, in Europe, we will have in a very short time, in January 2027, the new machinery regulation, which will come into force very shortly. Only 2 years is very short. This text has been strengthened and is now more clear and more exhaustive in covering what is expected to design an autonomous mobile machinery to ensure safety. But for the manufacturers, they know that we have in this text only essential requirements. We have global targets to reach. What are the means to achieve very real safety on the machine? We need technical and shared reference. So this text, this point is crucial. Global deployment of safety needs understanding, collective understanding, and objectives described in detailed text. Standardization is a reference for those exercise. We therefore need to work together to define the specific standards for the autonomous mobile machinery and for all the sector. As each geographical area has different regulatory frameworks, standardization in particular at ISO level, international level, ISO or IEC, depending the domains, we must use these takes to share a global vision of the performance to be achieved. It's very important to guarantee compliance with safety objectives, whatever the geographical area. We will see this morning from the testimonies of two speakers, for example, from CIMA and IEA, example of standards-based approach share at national or geographic areas. That are good example how to proceed to have a safety and global approach. But the intention, whatever the area and the content, is always the same: improve safety thanks to a standardization approach. How you will see in this approach can address the rules for designing machinery, but as well practices for using in complete safety in the fields. So it addresses also topics for users and dealers. So finally, we will to work together to develop such text. The need of autonomous machines can be safe, may sometimes prompt various stakeholders to envisage new procedures or certification or additional specific tests or things to do to put autonomous machine on the market. These initiatives are probably based on assumption that autonomous machinery are not safe enough or are dangerous. However, it is important for the autonomous machine sector to continue to develop and offer solutions that are awaited in the field without being hampered by additional administrative testing or certification procedure. We need a lean approach. Although the technology and use of autonomous machinery, the autonomous mobile machinery are not, from my perspective, very different from conventional machines. Yes, technically speaking, there are specific technologies, but in the way we have to design it, there's no reason why we could consider those machines are different than the others. So we will have to design it according to the same approach and the same design rules. So it's a way to leave a sufficient space to innovation.
Yes. Thanks a lot. So after that, maybe we have just a few questions, especially for the panelists to come, just to try to highlight the current hot topic of discussion about autonomy. At first, during the last year, we have focused, and with the machinery regulation, we have been able to define properly what is an autonomous mobile machinery. That's fine. That's great. We are going to talk about standards. We are going to talk about safety of a very specific machine. The point is that with the development of artificial intelligence and new features, one of the trends could be to have a lot of small units on a territory, on a farm. And in that case, it is most likely scenario would be to have multi-brand robots on a field in the coming years. So in that case, when we talk about autonomy of a machine, how we are going to handle safety at a farm level? If we have a system with several machines, several equipment, some of them are autonomous, other one are semi-autonomous. Most of them will have automated function. Other one will be very old machinery. How we are going to deal and to work with all of these machines together on the field, in the farm. What will be also the position of the supervision station of the operator? We will have the responsibility to supervise all of these machines working together. And sometimes you will have also, obviously, human working with machine. So what will be the position of that supervisor? The new regulation, European machinery regulation, is defining supervision station. How to use that in the farm, in the field. That's, I think, one of the key questions to come in the coming years, because for sure, robotics will be deployed to handle several tasks, several operations, and you will need to have several autonomous machines to deal with your farm. So for me, that's one of the key questions to come.
Yes, another key question that is often comes in the discussion is what about the road regulation regarding autonomous mobile machinery? Indeed, agricultural work requires the machine to cross from one field to another, or to come from the farmyard to the field. But at European level, maybe it's not everywhere the same situation, but at least in Europe, there are no harmonized regulation for road regulation for autonomous mobile machinery. So, how to deal with this question? Is it priority to deal with this? Is it very important for the stakeholders to deal with the road regulation? Should we focus only on occupational safety in field first of all, and after we will see later if we have to deal with road regulation? Or do you work yet on this topic because it's a real need? So it's a question that it has to be discussed. This question is just beginning to be discussed at European level around the table with manufacturers, how to deal with this, what could be the right requirements, what could be the right procedure, and so on. So this topic is an important to be dealt with, but what is the timeline and how to deal with it? It's a big question we have to ask.
And maybe a last one, a tricky one also. We are talking about machinery, we are talking about tractor. That's not the same. There are differences depending on the region in the world. Tractor and machine are not the same kind of equipment. So what is the difference between them? Is autonomy is going to provide a new way to define the differences between tractor and machinery, or do we need to consider both equipment at with the same approach? Question. I think that the answer is not the same depending on the part of the world. And another question maybe associated to that is how to deal with the kit you can deploy on conventional equipment to provide autonomy to them. Or we are going to consider the deployment of retrofit in order to make smarter implement with the other one, because we are in a phase where we want to limit the impact on environment. We are going to limit resources needed to deploy this kind of machinery in order to go fast on the transition. So keep in mind that for me, what something which is quite important is to limit resources, to limit the need to buy new equipment. So the retrofit is very important to consider also. And what will be behind that, the guidelines to be able to transform a conventional equipment into a smart one with autonomy, with movement, or with new operation which are autonomous on it. So that's another question. I think that is going to come in the years to come, and maybe if the panelists have some ideas this morning, it would be great to have your point of view of all of this subject. So good luck.
Thank you, Cedric.